Welcome to Hot Takes on the Classics. Before we begin today's show, kindly go like us on the podcast platform of your choice.
Hey, Tim.
And we're... Emily, yes?
I just want to point out we have a really nice review, and I just like to read a little bit of it because...
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
If you review our show, we might just mention you on air.
Yeah.
Our reviewer says this: each episode offers a recap of a seminal work for the season's theme. This allows listeners to see the evolution of the ongoing great conversation. The hosts bring in knowledge of art, music, and history as well. So helpful in understanding how these great works reflect their time. Thank you, listener. That was an awesome review.
What a great overview of the whole show. That's kind of like exactly what we do. That was wonderful.
Anyway, carry on, Tim.
We are also now on Substack. And Emily, you know what? Our Instagram is starting to be really extraordinary. And you know why it's extraordinary? Because we hired somebody under age 30 to run it for us.
That's exactly right. Yay,
Thank you,
Sophie.
Go follow us on Hot Takes Classics. That's hot, period, classics. Hot.takes.classics on Instagram. You'll find us. Okay, on with today's show.
So Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, the Son can do nothing of his own accord, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, that the Son does likewise. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all that he himself is doing." John 5:20 and 21. Welcome to Hot Takes on the Classics, a gossipy gallop through the best books ever written. My name is Emily Maeda, and that was from the 5th chapter of the Gospel of John in the Christian Bible. I'm joined by Tim McIntosh for this season on love. And today, Tim, we are beginning our fourth type of love. Agape?
Yes, we are.
Caritas,
sometimes translated caritas. Yeah.
Or charity.
Yeah.
So,
Emily, I kind of thought that it might be appropriate to do a little bit of a word history about this word, agape, especially because the Gospel of John changes the meaning of this Greek word. And I thought, okay, it's a good time. We're going into this last of our four types of love, agape. Let's kind of remember a little bit about where we've come from and about where we're going. So this word, agape, or to hear C.S. Lewis say it back in his day, agape.
Agape. I always thought it was agape, but see, you learn things as you when I was a child.
The Gospel of John, which we're about to read, starts to kind of change the meaning of this Greek word. The Greek word has, existed since the time of Homer, but when Homer used it, it wasn't a particularly potent word. It meant something like to be well pleased or to find satisfaction. And then it kind of gets mentioned more in Plato and Aristotle, but it doesn't have the kind of metaphysical weight that it's going to have when we get to the New Testament. So the words for the Greeks, for Plato and Aristotle, that were really, really powerful were the two previous types of love that we talked about, philia, so mutual affection, loyalty, brotherly love. This is the kind of love, that binds the polis together, the Greek city-state. And then another really potent type of love is eros, passionate, upward-reaching desire. It's a kind of desire or a sort of outside influence, says Plato, says Socrates at various points. That's kind of a madness.
It calls you. It takes you out of yourself.
That's right. The word agape was a modest, pretty colorless term. It was certainly not fit for philosophy. And it was very far from divine discourse before Christianity. And then it actually starts to turn before Christianity comes on the scene. You want to make a wild guess, Emily, about when it starts to turn? You know your history well enough that if I gave you a little bit of time, you could probably
Well,
giving you this
I'm
answer.
wondering if it has to do with the Septuagint.
It has to do with the Septuagint.
With the translation of the Old Testament into Greek, right? And
That's right.
I wonder, I'm just completely speculating because I have not done this word study, but it would seem to me that if these other two terms are so potent in Greek philosophy that maybe the translators figured they better find a different word. Right? I mean, is that part of it? It must be part of it.
I'm going to assume so. Because the
Capable
word
of carrying
existed.
what they're trying to say.
Say it again.
I said a word capable, right? Philia has very clear connotations. Eros has very clear connotations. So this other kind of love that's trying to be described, right?
That's
What is
right.
capable of carrying that word?
Yeah. So they found this little word, agape. It's like a little bucket that was off kind of in a corner of the Greek lexicon. And during the translation of the Torah from Hebrew into Greek, this is 3rd, 2nd century BC, that's when the word starts to really achieve like a deeper meaning. So previously you would have agape for like your olive orchard or for the maid who makes your bread in the morning. Agape, I am satisfied. This bread is good bread. I love my olive orchard. But it's not full of divine import. It doesn't touch on like the nature of being itself. And this is what begins to happen when the Hebrew scriptures are translated into Greek, and they would be called the Septuagint. Now, let's just pause for a second. The Septuagint is a really remarkable moment in the history of Judaism and ends up being a really remarkable event, kind of almost in preparation for Christianity, I guess you would say. So the Jewish people who had been living in Palestine also lived under all sorts of empires, the Assyrian Empire, the Babylonian Empire, the Persian Empire. And when these empires would come in, they would conquer the land, and Jews would be scattered all over the Mediterranean world during this time. Sometimes they'd be taken slaves. Sometimes like the best of the Jewish people would be taken and exported in kind of like brain drain for the Assyrian Empire or the Persian Empire. So
Daniel and his friends, yes.
Like Daniel and his friends, exactly. They're like high-ranking officials that are taken away from their homeland, popped into Babylon, and they've got really prestigious roles to play there because they're really bright young men. By the time the Hellenistic period rolls around, so think Alexander the Great, think like 330 BC, Jews are living in major cities all around the Mediterranean. And what do they speak? Well, they're speaking Greek. And what kind of Greek? Common Greek, or we would call it today, Koine Greek.
Yes.
So the language of the New Testament and the language of the Septuagint are Koine Greek. These scattered Jews, often called the diaspora, the scattering, they want to kind of preserve Jewish practices, Judaistic rituals, and they want to do it, and they want to know the language that they're doing it in. That's Greek. Okay.
The thing that's so interesting about that, though, is, Hebrew is so integral to the Torah, right? It's fascinating that it ever happens.
Yeah.
Because, like, the two things, in some ways, it's I think more akin to Islamic views of the scripture, right? Which are like, it needs to be in Arabic. So it is really fascinating that the Septuagint came about.
And there's kind of some folklore. I'm treading on kind of some dangerous territory here.
I know this story.
But I'm going to like try to say it respectfully. The story is that 72 scholars were selected to make the translation. And they kind of went into the room, closed the door behind them, and they had complete and total agreement about every word of the translation.
Well, I was thinking about that story when you said the thing about the use of agape, because that makes that also very interesting. Now, I think the veracity of that story is somewhat debated, right?
Definitely. Definitely.
But if that were the case, then it would be kind of remarkable that they would all choose agape as their word for love.
And you can see in that story how important and how scary it was to translate Torah out of Hebrew. Like, it needs to be a miraculous event.
Right.
And I think that story kind of like is like, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
72.
Yeah.
All in agreement.
Yeah.
And you and I know enough about translation. Never do two translators ever sit down side by side and come up with the exact same translation. No. There's a quibble over every sentence.
Exactly.
So another reason why this is important is that when there is a quotation from the Old Testament in the Gospels, in the New Testament, it's from this Septuagint, this Greek translation.
Right. Well, and then you have to wait all the way until Jerome before people go back to the Hebrew.
I didn't know that.
Do you know that? I mean, Jerome is the first one. So
Jerome, give us a date roughly.
Like 400.
Yeah.
Right? Wild.
So in the Septuagint, there's a sense of when we read the word agape, the sense of the word is it is covenant love. Mm-hmm. It is faithfulness between Yahweh and his people. Mm-hmm. And that is, it even goes through another manifestations when we get into the Gospels, when we get into the rest of the New Testament. So, John 13:34, John says, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love," that you agape, "one another just as I have loved you. You are to love one another." So this echoes Leviticus 19:18, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. But what's interesting is that Jesus is calling this a new commandment. And you're like, it sounds just like Leviticus. Well, part of the reason that it's new is that it's the nature of love that is given it is so robust and full and deep now. It is deeper even than the kind of like covenant love that we see described in the Old Testament Septuagint. Okay. So, Septuagint kind of sets the stage for Christianity. The word is now going to be filled with the mystery of divine redemption. And the early Christians adopt this word as the central term, the central term to describe both God's nature and the new life of the believer who follows Jesus. So in the Gospel of John, agape, read it as more than just like an ethical commandment or a human virtue. It's like a reflection of God himself, a pattern of the divine revelation. The Father, agape, loves the Son and shows him all that he himself is doing. Like you can see the kind of pattern. The Father loves the Son, and it's part of their shared nature. It's really,
amazing.
really
Amazing.
Profound.
Said none of the Greek gods or the Roman gods or the Babylonian gods, right?
Right.
And
this
so
is a new thing.
This is a revolution.
In conclusion, think about it like this in contrast with Eros, which is the kind of love that we've been talking about up until this moment. Eros, in previous podcasts, that probably was confusing. Eros is human assent toward what it desires.
Right.
Think like Plato's Symposium. Eros desires the lover and goes after the lover.
Or Dante's ascent of the mountain, right? That's a desiring love that reaches up.
Agape, by contrast, is divine descent, love that gives what it has.
Self-emptying.
Self-emptying.
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to do that little word study as we get into
that was fascinating.
the Gospel
Thank
of
you.
John.
Thank you for doing that little
I'm so
word
glad
study.
you like it.
Very helpful.
This is the first time in the podcast, Emily, that we talked directly about the man Jesus.
Yeah.
We've talked about him adjacently in other
sure have.
books, but this is the first time he is the primary subject through the Gospel of John. And so we're meeting him directly. It's kind of hard to quantify just how much impact this man has had on human history. I heard, do you know the comedian Louis C.K.?
Isn't it Louis C.K.?
Louis C.K. Oh, yeah. You can tell how up with contemporary comedians I am. Actually, no, I actually like him. I've never seen him in person, but
I haven't either.
He's very funny.
I don't even know how I knew that, but I just, sorry, Louis. Anyway, keep going.
He has this really brilliant bit about the influence of Jesus in the Christian religion. So he starts and he says, hey, we love to tell ourselves that every religion is the same and equally valuable, and no, they're not. The Christians won. I'm speaking in Louis C.K.'s voice. No, they're not. The Christians won. They won everything. They won everything a long time ago. And if you don't believe me, let me just ask you a question. What year is it?
Ha! Gotcha. What year is it?
Isn't that a great line? Isn't that a great setup?
It's BCE. Or what is it? ACE, after the Common Era.
Yeah. Right. BC. Right. Whatever. Anyway. Whatever. Please. The whole world's calendar is measured in distance from Jesus' birth.
Louis C.K. Good point.
Emily, I'm going to start with a question. Have you ever thought about what kind of genre the Gospels are? I'm thinking about all four Gospels together now. Like, is there a genre other than they're the Gospels?
Well, I would have to say there is a genre, but you lump them all together because Matthew, Mark, and Luke should properly go together.
They're different, aren't they?
Yeah.
The Synoptic Gospels, can you give us a kind of a cursory outline of how they're different?
Well, the Synoptic Gospels are meant to be chronological, right? Even though all three of them relate slightly different events. Yeah. But it's moving through Christ's life chronologically. And, sometimes this has caused problems for people because people are like, well, they don't agree.
Right.
But to me, that's their power. Right? That they somewhat tell things differently because anyway, they're moving in time. John is not moving in time. I mean, he is, but that's not his point. That's not his point.
To your point, he doesn't start with the birth.
Exactly.
He doesn't start in Nazareth.
Exactly.
He starts like it is a global perspective from the very beginning. Right.
How about cosmic?
Or a cosmic, that's a better way of saying it, a cosmic perspective right out of the gate. I do think that you can call all four of them mini biographies.
Yeah.
They might vary in the way that they approach events.
Yeah, but they're telling about the life of Christ, right?
They're telling about the life of Christ.
I didn't give you the answer you were looking for.
I was looking for an answer. I was looking for a setup.
I'm sorry.
Emily, remember the old black vinyl records?
What are you talking about, old? Everybody's cool that's listening to vinyl records again. What are we talking about?
But they came out a long time ago. We've had like 4 updates in the technology since then. But we don't have a record player.
I got where you're going with this.
We've got an iPhone. Okay, so I kind of think that that's a good way to think about the way that the needle kind of would fall on a record is a little bit the way that the Gospels operate, these mini biographies. They are not saying, I'm going to give you a comprehensive, detailed, fact by fact, event by event, in order, telling of Jesus. It's the needle drops on the record.
Go.
We hear an episode. It comes up. We hear another episode. The needle drops again. We hear another episode, right? So it's a selective telling of different events, all kind of culminating with the story. And all 4 of the Gospels do all have the same climax, the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus. But there's only like maybe 6 or 7 other common events that they all tell in their Gospels. Like the feeding of the 5,000 is in all 4. The prediction of Judas's betrayers in all 4. But there's a lot of really famous scenes that are only told in 1, 2, 3 Gospels.
Well, yeah, Matthew, Mark, and Luke have far more overlap, right? Because they they have the parables, they have most of the same healings. Yeah, but I mean, really, it's John that's kind of the outlier.
John is the outlier.
Which is the reason you're doing it, I would assume.
It is. It's also believed to be written like considerably later, say, than the book of Mark. Mark, they think mid-50s, and they think John probably 90.
Yeah, right. Can I make an aside?
Yeah,
we've just spent the year reading the Gospel of Mark, and it is a very funny gospel. That's just what I'm going to say to you.
Can you expand on?
It's very
Whether
terse.
funny.
It's very terse.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the things that I love in Scripture is the sense of the authorship. The person who is writing the Gospels, be it they inspired, which all Christians hold to, you still get the personality. And actually you get the personality in John. And I love that.
So the fact that you just got done reading the Gospel of John might undermine my hot take. But you know what? I'm going for it, and I'm going for it early, Emily. So if this is the first time listening to the show,
what is going on?
If you have not heard the show before, usually we save the hot takes to the end. But I thought my hot take belongs much earlier in the conversation.
Just messing it up.
Here it is. Here's my hot take.
Shouldn't we take a break? We need to take a break before you give us the hot take.
Do you think so? You don't feel prepared for the hot take?
No, I don't. We better take a break.
Emily, let's take a break.
Okay.
Hey, while we're taking this break, you just gave a speech in New York City.
I sure did.
And you touched on the Gospel of John.
I sure did.
Can you tell us about it? Why did you talk about the Gospel of John in this talk that you gave about gardening?
Well, not about gardening, about gardens.
About gardens. Pardon me. Pardon me. Noun, not a verb.
Yeah, well, I bet you're going to get into it in the rest of what you're talking about, because one of the things that's so beautiful about the Gospel of John is that he is really interested in types, meaning how is Jesus the fulfillment of Jonah? How is Jesus the new Adam? How is Jesus a fulfillment, right? So he is drawing in images from the Old Testament. And one of the things that's really beautiful is in the Passion account, the entire Passion narrative is set in a garden, right? Christ is betrayed, arrested, crucified, and rises again. And he recounts that Mary Magdalene thought Christ was the gardener. So I made the claim that that John is really interested in saying he is a new Adam, right? Adam defiled the original garden. Christ is redeeming it. So there you go.
Oh, forgive me. I had to cough. Sorry for the pause.
That's totally fine.
So the typology of Adam having fallen in the garden, echoed and reversed by Jesus' passion beginning in the garden.
Beginning, crucifixion and resurrection, right? It's a new creation. He's saying in Revelation, I'm making all things new. And John shows that. He doesn't have to hit you over the head with it.
Right.
He does it by placing Christ in the garden, a redemption of, the Garden of Eden.
I want to say, listeners who haven't heard before, one of Emily's many occupations is that she is a landscape designer. She and her husband co-own a business, and she's a landscape designer. So this is not just a fondness for gardening and I have a couple spades in the front yard.
Yeah.
I know
like
what
my
I'll do.
roses.
I'll go give a talk. Right.
I like my roses.
This is an area of deep expertise for you. Emily, I've got to tell you also, I have a project that I've been working on. I've talked to you a little bit about it, and now I'm going to mention it on the air.
Please.
You know that I'm a big fan of Soren Kierkegaard. He hasn't shown up on the show yet. I am sure that at some point he's going to show up. He's going to show up in one of our podcasts. Oh, does he really? Does he really?
I'm going to reference him just for you.
Soren Kierkegaard, I think, is one of the great minds of the 19th century, and his life, the last few years of his life, Emily, as far as I know, have never been told in any sort of publicly accessible media. It's been told in biographies plenty of times. But I've written a play about the last few years of his life, and it is going into production first at a couple of arts conferences, and then we're going to have a full production in Tennessee, in Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the summer. Woohoo!
That's a huge deal. It's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal. And it's also, the play is gathering steam, but putting on a play is no small feat. And so several people have asked if they can support the show financially. We have a website, kierkegaardplay.com.
Awesome. Nobody has that domain name.
What a shock. Nobody has KierkegaardPlay.com. People are listening to this and like, I don't even know how to spell Kierkegaard, much less get a domain name with that name.
I bet they can put it in the show notes.
I bet they
put
can
it in
too.
the show notes.
KierkegaardPlay.com.
It's true. How do you even spell it?
If you would like to support the show, we would really, really appreciate it. It's going to be a group effort. It's going to be a community that takes this thing to the level that we want to take it to. So anyway, we would really appreciate your support. Emily?
Yes.
Let's go back to the hot take.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready for this unnatural hot take. Here we go.
Okay, here it is. Emily, we have never had more access to Bibles, to quality translations, to quality study tools, and yet I think that the way that we read the Bible, I mean as individual lay people, I'm not talking about like the scholarly community, is suffering horribly. In other words, we are Bible rich and we are hermeneutically poor.
Whew. This is your hot take?
This is my hot take. We go to the text, but what we do with the text is we're suffering a little bit. And here are the three problems, okay? Let me lay it out for you. Okay. And you can disagree at any point along the way. This is the point of a hot take.
All right.
The first problem, the Bible, and hear me to the end here, is probably it is definitively the most commented upon book in the history of the world. Mm-hmm. It's not even really close. Mm-hmm. Like the second closest is a commentary on a commentary of the Old Testament called the why is my brain leaving me now? Anyway, the Bible is the most commented upon book in the history of the world, bar none. So when you're reading the Gospel of John, I think it's a little bit like this. It's almost been painted over with so much meaning.
Accretions
that sometimes it's hard to just read the text without all sorts of commentaries, sermons, songs, what have you, kind of flooding your purview of the text. Here's the way I think about it. Like imagine someone put up a big, beautiful mural in your neighborhood. Like we have these in our neighborhood. Big concrete walls that are covered over in gorgeous murals. And let's imagine that this mural was so powerful, beautiful, impactful that people started writing little notes or like maybe spray painting notes on the margins of the mural. And soon, more and more people were writing their notes in the margins, more and more. And soon the notes themselves began to kind of cover over the mural itself. I think this is a little bit of what happens when we read, especially the Gospels.
I think you're right. I'm not going to disagree with you.
Okay.
I think what I see in my mind are barnacles. That's what I see in my mind.
Yes. Things that kind of like
cover it up.
Attach themselves.
Yes, and cover
and
it
obscure the original thing. Okay. So that's the first of my three kind of, I guess, problems with that get in our way of reading. That get in our way of reading the Gospels. Okay. Whenever I read the Gospels, I was reading the Gospel of John. I got to chapter 2. The wedding in Cana. Jesus turns water into wine. And as soon as I read it, I start thinking things like, okay, this is the scene where Jesus' first miracle. This is the public launch of his ministry. Okay, the water from wine is a sign that Jesus' arrival is cause for celebration. Like I'm doing all these things, and I'm not really actually reading the text. Right, they believe in alcohol, right. All these things come to my mind instead of just reading the events or the words or the dialogue that's happening in front of me. None of these things that flood in my mind are necessarily false.
Right.
They're probably valid, but they're just another layer of paint, a side commentary that's threatening to kind of come into
that keeps you from having a direct experience with the text itself, right?
Exactly.
Treating it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I want to say it is very, very hard to not prematurely attach meaning to a text or to actions. I'll tell you a little story. I went to a little conference, at a school of psychology. And several of us sat in a small circle of chairs, and there was a man leading this little part of the conference. And he said, hey, listen, I want us to do an exercise. And the exercise is something is about to happen right in front of you with me, and I just want you to write down what you see. I don't want you to write down what you think it means. I don't want you to write down motives. I just want you to write down and later tell the class, what did you see? Okay. As he's finishing up this talk, a younger man walks into this circle, and he kind of like almost jostles into the man that's speaking. The man that's speaking clearly kind of like has a little reaction to it, like he frowns for a second, and then he tells the younger man to go sit down. The younger man sits down beside him, and then the exercise begins. We have to write down what we saw. It is so hard to not attribute motive to these two characters and to just give a description. The description like a man with short brown hair wearing a blue shirt spoke to us in English, right? It's very hard to do. And in fact, when we read some of the things that we supposedly saw, some of the things that people said they saw, oh my gosh, they were heavy interpretations that were implying all sorts of motives. Okay, the older guy clearly has it in for the younger guy. It's a power trip, and you're like, that was not the exercise.
That was not,
So it's very easy to kind of just get swept up in meaning prematurely.
I've been teaching my students this with literary explication, that they always want to jump to some deeper meaning. I'm saying, no. Sit and deal with what the actual words mean.
Good.
What are the concrete images that are being given to you, right?
Good.
But it's always that move to abstraction rather than staying just what's here. I mean, not that you're not going to find deeper things, but you find the deeper things through the particularities that are given to you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Here's a second problem that causes us to kind of not read the Bible well, or maybe I'll say it causes a calcified, barnacleized reading of the Bible. The Bible requires a good reading of subtext. This is part of what's exciting about the Bible, especially about the Gospel of John, is that so much happens that is unexplained.
Could this be my example of the garden?
This is
typology, right? This is typology.
Absolutely.
It's being able to understand the allusions that are being made. And I think it's a little bit because we are so used to treating the Bible through a historical critical lens, right? Which has been the dominant way of interpreting scripture for the last 100 years, that we've lost our ability to read symbolically.
Yes. Good. So that's about reading symbolically. Think about an example of Nicodemus. Nicodemus, chapter 3 of the Gospel of John, has a long conversation with Jesus. When Nicodemus comes to Jesus at night, there's no explanation given. He's just known to be a teacher of the law. And he comes at night.
Right. That should be important to us.
It sure seems important. What does it mean? Well, for a moment, let's just speculate. He probably doesn't want to be seen, right? That probably is the number one, the best explanation for it. But the text doesn't say that. So when we're reading, we kind of have to hold that as, I think possibly that's why this is put into the text.
Right.
He came at night because he was coming in secret.
Right. And there's a cloakedness to even the conversation, right?
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Nicodemus. Go ahead, Emily. Yeah.
I'm thinking about that. Like that's what John does so beautifully is he doesn't tell you everything that you're supposed to believe. He leaves it to you to put these things together, right? To deal with the entire image, not just the things that are being said.
Case in point, after the conversation between Nicodemus and Jesus, we hear nothing about Nicodemus until we hear this. Nicodemus brought a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 75 pounds for the buried body of Jesus. Again, do we know what that means? No, the text doesn't say, but we need to probably surmise something from that. Probably Nicodemus is now a follower
has become
of
a follower.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're supposed to surmise. It's good writing.
It's really good writing.
Writing because he's showing us He's not telling us, right?
Yes.
And John is he's a master of that.
So this is the second problem that I have, is like the Bible requires reading and understanding subtext, but guess how you come to understand subtext? By placing yourself into the story through a deep understanding of the characters and their goals, and this requires longer readings, not just cracking it open, digging out a few verses and closing it up, which brings us to the third problem, Emily. The third problem with reading the Bible is especially a kind of pretty modern problem.
Yeah.
Chapters and verses.
I was going to say.
There are no chapters and verses in the original.
I know. We treat that as if it's inspired as well. Like, no, that's just been added, and it actually breaks the narrative up, right?
It really breaks the narrative up.
And all the headings that they give you. Yeah.
Completely. So as I was preparing for this, I was just listening.
Oh, nice.
On audio.
Nice.
No chapters and verse. They did chapters, but they just like went through them really quickly. So again, I think that the Bible really rewards a long, slow reading instead of just kind of like mining verse by verse, just chew one little morsel. It just is not gratifying. I think by just focusing on a few verses at a time instead of large swaths of the story, we lose a lot of the subtext because it's harder to understand the meanings. It's harder to understand the objectives of the characters and the broad sweep of the story.
Absolutely, because that's a little bit down to the troubles, it sounds like, we've gotten used to expository preaching, right? Which oh, you're a really good preacher if you can just preach on 2 verses.
Yeah,
now, not to say that there's not a place for that, but when we've all sort of, that's become now sort of the way that you just focus on a teeny bit rather than getting the trajectory of the story, right?
That's right.
That, what is it? The Bible Project? Do you know that? Do you know that group?
I don't think so.
They do a great job of this.
Really?
They do a great job of this. Yeah. Of having the intunedness to read for the narrative scope rather than just bits and pieces.
Well, that's going to be my recommendation.
Oh, well, nice job.
A way of reading. So, Emily, I just thought, let's do a little quick experiment and then we'll return to kind of like the main plot of the gospel.
Okay.
John chapter 2. I find it really exciting and rewarding to read the Gospels, especially the subtext in the Gospels, as if I were reading a play script. I write plays, so I'm wired to go that way. Mm-hmm. But when you read something as a play script, the author, the playwright, rarely, especially if the playwright's good, gives you a lot of explication that's on the nose. I'm mad right now. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I feel faint because I am so in, that's rarely done. You see it through actions and through indirect discourse. Mm-hmm. So let's find an example in the earliest part of the Gospel of John, the wedding of Cana. I'm just going to read a couple of verses. John chapter 2. On the third day, there was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus also was invited to the wedding with his disciples. When the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does this have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now, I just want to point out, none of the dialogue directly addresses anything that was said previously.
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
It's so inscrutable. Yeah.
It is. And so we are left to wonder, why did Mary say, "Hey, Jesus, they have no wine."
No wine. Yeah.
Especially when it seems like he probably knew that. I think we can read between the lines, a little subtext, and he probably had figured that out. So why is she telling him something that he already knows? That's an interpretive question right there. Uh-huh. Why does Jesus take it and go like cosmic with it. Woman, what does this have to do with me? He's like, why are you wanting something from me? And what does it mean that my hour has not yet come? These are open questions. We don't know the answers to them. And then his mother doesn't respond to that at all. In fact, kind of like seems to dismiss it by turning to the servants and saying, do whatever he tells you to do.
Because he's going to take care of it, is the implied meaning.
Right. He's going to take care of it. How? And how does she know that he's going to take care of it? All of this is like part of the submerged iceberg that's underneath the text. And for me, I think it's thrilling to kind of sit in those interpretive questions and don't rush to give the answer.
That's great. That's so
It's
great.
not always easy, but I think it makes the reading, it deals with the three problems I think that I introduced, because it gets our mind away from pre-established
answering
meanings.
the questions. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not answering the questions too quickly. If we're reading large swaths of the story, we're not just camping on, like trying to extract meaning from one little sentence. Instead, we're letting the story do a lot of the work and interpret a lot of the subtext for us.
That's great. Do you know who else agrees with you and has a great course on this?
Who?
Justin Jackson at Hillsdale and his
really?
course on the Bible as narrative. Highly recommend. It will. He completely agrees with you, and I think it opens new ways to be moved by something that we are deeply familiar with, and
and the familiarity can be a curse. Yes,
exactly.
Right. Okay, Emily. Again, the plot of the Gospels are sort of like we're dropping a needle on a. Yeah,
I appreciate the hot take, because I was kind of wondering, like, it's a bit irreverent to have a hot take on scripture. So that's brilliant. Because you just, you went right around it, didn't hot take
I did.
Scripture. That's great.
I did.
You hot take us.
I skirted it. Emily, one of the things that I was struck by when I was listening to the gospel was how fast it moves. The pace is so quick. And I don't mean, I just mean we are thrust into a crisis almost immediately.
You mean in John's gospel?
In John's gospel, yes.
Yeah,
in John's gospel.
I was just thinking about that, how it's almost, aside from the prologue, it's the feeling of in media res, in the middle of the thing, right?
Completely.
And because he doesn't give you any of the birth and childhood of Jesus, you're just dropped into the intensity of Christ's ministry. Right?
And the intensity of Christ's ministry in the first half of the book is all about this conflict that is unrelenting with the Jewish leaders. It was like a megaphone. It was so loud. They were after him every single page. They are after him. And it feels almost a little bit claustrophobic. So when he goes and he speaks, oh gosh, where does he go? He kind of steps out of Israel for a moment. It's like, okay, we can breathe. We're not being chased and trying to be cornered. And then when he returns, he's back in the Holy Land. We're almost immediately in the upper room discourse. The upper room discourse happens beginning in chapter 13.
Right. It's a good portion of the entire gospel.
Right. It's only 25 chapters long, and we get like
4.
Maybe even, like the middle of it, we are already on the trajectory to crucifixion.
Yeah.
It's really intense.
It is intense. That's what makes it so different from the other gospels, right?
Yeah.
There's so much more about Christ's ministry, his healings, all of that. The parables, all of that has so much more time. They do
and the
have
Beatitudes.
And the Beatitudes. Yeah, exactly.
Those are so leisurely. Here we are on the side of a mountain. There's breeze blowing through the grass, and we're hearing about blessed are the meek. Man, the Gospel of John is really adrenalized. It moves so quickly. So by the time we are halfway through the Gospel, we're in the upper room. Jesus is telling what is going to happen. He's talking about his betrayal. The betrayal begins to be enacted even in the upper room. And then by chapter 18, we are like heading toward Golgotha.
Yeah.
So.
And interestingly, there's a lot at the end, actually. There's more at the end after the resurrection in John, right?
More than the Synoptic Gospels.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking at our notes here, 21 through 25, right? I mean, for Mark, Christ comes back and then he says the weird things about you will dance with snakes, and then he's taken into heaven. I mean, we don't get all of this, like the sea and,
Emily, do you know that the Gospel of Mark was hardly even touched by the patristic commentators?
I do, because I felt it problematic, right?
I didn't know that they found it problematic.
Well, there's there's arguments about where it starts and which parts are incomplete, right? So, I mean, it is just that's also an outlier. Mark is terse. John is, I don't know. He's not romantic. That's the wrong word. He's imaginative. Imaginative.
Yeah. I've heard it said that Mark is written for a Roman audience. The number of times that the Greek word immediately shows up in Mark, it's like stunning. There's so many times immediately. Yeah. And immediately he turned his face to Jerusalem, and immediately he healed the blind man. Let me close with this. It's hard to measure influence, right, Emily? Like, who's more influential, the Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin? Like, how would you measure that? It's really hard to. Which poet was more influential, Emily Dickinson or Robert Frost? Yeah. Really hard to measure. Yeah. That being said, the Gospel of John is surely maybe this is the most influential 50 pages of text in the history of the world.
Maybe
I don't know how you would measure it scientifically. Maybe by the
how
number
many
of
citations?
Commentators. Yeah. Maybe
how
something
many
like this.
Citations?
But like Augustine's Meditations were influenced by it. Bach's Passions, Aquinas' philosophy, the poetry of T.S. Eliot. The list goes on and on and on, to say nothing of the individual lives. I want to close with a quote by a historian, W.E.H. Lecky, L-E-C-K-Y. I think this really captures it. It may be truly said that the simple record of 3 years of Jesus' active life has done more to regenerate and soften mankind than all the disquisitions of philosophers and all the exhortations of the moralists.
It's a great quote.
Time for rapid questions. Really quickly, Emily.
Okay.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John?
Luke and John.
Wait, you can't do both. You have to pick one.
Luke and John.
Oh my gosh, cheating. Nicodemus or Cornelius the centurion from the book of Acts?
Oh, that's hard.
Tough.
Nicodemus.
Which miracle would you rather have seen? Turning water into wine or raising Lazarus from the dead?
Raising Lazarus from the dead. Absolutely.
Yeah. Which would you reflect on more in your old age? The Last Supper or seeing Jesus on the beach after the resurrection?
What are we talking about? This is not fair.
That's a great question. They're designed to be impossibly hard.
Jeez.
Which would you reflect on more in your
old age? I love that.
The Last Supper or Jesus on the beach after the resurrection?
I don't know. Maybe the Last Supper? That's impossible.
I think so.
I think so. Say?
I was going to say that. And
I'm going to use that at a dinner party. I'm going to use that at a dinner party.
It's a great question.
Yeah, it is a great question. Did you think that up?
I did think that up.
Nice job.
I'm a little bit surprised that you're so dubious.
It's just funny because you said that's a great question. And so then I was like, wait, is he saying that about his own question? Because it is. It's a great question. And I'm going to ask that at a dinner party because I would like people to think about that.
I love it. Emily, closing thanks. We want to say thanks to Mark Goby, our producer. We miss Clark, but we are glad to have Mark in the cockpit. We are thankful for Tom Hagerman, who wrote and produced and performed our music. Emily, on to our next episode on agape love.
Can't wait, Tim.
See you then.